You're welcome back. You're still watching Business Morning on Channels Television. Well, oil prices jumped more than $2 today on supply disruption worries as tensions between Russia and Ukraine escalated after Moscow ordered troops into two breakaway regions in eastern Ukraine. Moscow's move drew international condemnation, and U.S. officials have said Washington, in coordination with allies, is planning to announce new sanctions on Russia. U.S. President Joe Biden has issued an executive order to halt U.S. business activity in the breakaway regions and ban import of all goods from those areas. U.S. West Texas Intermediate crude futures jumped by almost $3 to $93.86 a barrel. And that's against Friday's settlement, while Brent crude futures rose $1.36 to $96.75 a barrel, adding 2% gain yesterday. Well, how does this concern Nigeria? We have Adesola Simoni joining us now for this conversation. Hello, Adesola. Good morning.
Hi, Ine, good morning.
So we see that oil prices are getting closer and closer to the $100 per barrel, which is also becoming attractive for U.S. shale producers. Talk to us about this development and your outlook for the oil prices, especially as it connects to Nigeria.
Okay, thank you for that question, Ine. So first, like you mentioned, oil prices have increased around 20% year to date, and yesterday it's reached a 7-year high of $96 per barrel, driven by, like you mentioned, the escalation of tensions between Russia and Ukraine, and also tighter supplies. Tighter supplies globally. We've seen OPEC continuously fail to meet its production targets, and for January, they missed their target by around 900,000 barrels per day. We're also seeing stronger demand. We're seeing a revival in oil demand to pre-pandemic levels, which is also supportive of oil demand. And all of this is making oil attractive for even high-cost shale producers. We are now seeing marginal fields in Oklahoma in the U.S. as well as Colorado in the U.S. come back on stream. These are fields, or marginal fields that were offline since 2020, in the middle of the pandemic, that begin to come online. Even though they are high-cost producers, the fact that oil prices are reaching near $100 per barrel is attractive for them. So going forward, I think that the outlook for oil will depend on escalation of tensions between the U.S. and Russia over Ukraine, and some analysts are already seeing oil reach $120, $125 per barrel in the coming weeks. For Nigeria, I think while the oil prices are positive, they are good for Nigeria, the effects for Nigeria is mixed. I think if Nigeria is able to increase her oil production, then it is positive in terms of exports revenue. However, because of Nigeria also imports PMS, the higher oil prices are in the global commodities market, the higher the landing cost of PMS in the domestic economy, and that also has implications for subsidy. Already we are having some issues with PMS supply in Nigeria, and we are seeing long queues for that.
Yeah, so when you talk about the high-cost producers, now, it's becoming more attractive to them. Do you think that their supply will now, drive the price downwards? Do you see that happening?
I think, yeah, good question again, Amy. Yes, we are seeing, like I said, more, marginal producers. These high-cost producers are kind of marginal players. So the impact on global oil output is marginal. However, we are also seeing more output coming from other more profitable U.S. producers, U.S. shale producers, particularly in West Texas and the Gulf of Mexico. And these guys are going to increase their gearing to boost their production, which will moderate oil prices going forward, at least towards the end of the year.
Okay, so let's look at other commodities now. The price of cocoa in the commodities market is down now more than 0.5%. It's now about 2,600. As extreme weather tightens Côte d'Ivoire's output, and Nigeria expects adequate rainfall for the 2022. What is the implication of this development, and where do you see cocoa prices going?
Okay, so the context, for context, what is happening is the dry Harmattan weather is threatening cocoa meat crop in large West African countries, large West African producers such as Ivory Coast, Ghana, Nigeria, Cameroon, etc. But as the Harmattan season ends and the rain season the rain season is coming, we expect that to be positive for cocoa production, because the dry weather it reduces the soil moisture for this cocoa plantation, and then it affects the size and also the quantity of cocoa that is harvested. But with the coming of the rains, I think it is positive. It will help support the mid crop harvest for these large producers, and with higher supply from these large producers in West Africa, it will dampen the prices in the global commodities market. But on the other hand, we are seeing smaller cocoa inventories in the US, which suggests that there's strong demand for cocoa in the US. We're also seeing for chocolate in the US, I beg your pardon. We're also seeing strong demand in Europe, even as many countries lift up the final coronavirus restrictions. That is also affecting demand. So we are seeing strong demand. So I think the outlook is going to be dependent on the interplay of these strong demand forces coming from North America as well as Europe, as well as the higher supply coming from West Africa, as we expect better weather conditions to support the output.
Yeah, and another commodity that seems to be in the news is sugar. We see that the price is falling in the global markets. What's going on there?
So what's going on is that for sugar, we are seeing huge production from one of the largest producers globally. India is the second largest producer of sugar globally after Brazil. And we are seeing very huge production. I mean, their production for this 2021-2022 marketing year is projected to increase 3% to 31.9 million tons. So that is essentially what is driving the price of sugar down. But also we see in Kenya that the deliveries, the production in Kenya is Kenya's production to Kenya's supply to their sugar milling factories is smaller month on month, comparing November to December, and that has, I think, the impact for the global sugar price is trivial, because Kenya, although is the second largest producer of sugar in East Africa after Uganda, in terms of the global scale, they are a marginal player. They are a net importer of sugar, and their production for this marketing year, is estimated around 650,000 metric tons. Meanwhile, their domestic demand is around 1 million metric tons. So I don't think that developments in sugar production in Kenya would have any effect on global sugar prices.
And Nigeria wants to export beans, but when we talk about exports, there's not a whole lot of process. I remember when we tried to export yam, we had some issues there. So are we ready for this? Does it look like we're ready to export beans?
Let me give you some perspective. So globally, Nigeria is actually one of the biggest producers of beans in the world. They account for around 58% of beans production globally, and in Africa around 61%. That's according to data from IITA. And the FAO also estimates Nigeria's production at around 3.6 million metric tons. So that is good. But the problem with exporting beans, or even exporting any commodity from Nigeria, is the issue of quality control.
Exactly.
So in 2015, the EU banned Nigeria's export of beans because they said it contained excessive amounts of chemicals of pesticides or chemicals that are used to preserve the beans. And in 2018 or 2019, I think Nigeria tried to appeal that ban, but it was unsuccessful, and the ban was extended up until 2022. So now the Nigerian Export Promotion Council is trying to, appeal the ban again, trying to, sensitize, the stakeholders in the whole beans export value chain to adopt agricultural best practices to, use better means to preserve their beans, or, moderate amounts of pesticides. So if the appeal is successful, then I think it's positive, at least for the players in the beans export value chain. I think it's positive. I think it will increase their incomes. It may increase, boost, some export revenue. But I think for Nigeria as a whole, the effect will be small, because even though beans is a small part of Nigeria's export is agricultural exports is dominated by cocoa, but even agricultural exports as a fraction of total exports is very small.
Yeah, but I mean, even if it's small, I'm sure it will enrich the life of some farmers. So is it for
Yes,
us to
for the
appeal?
farmers, it is positive. I mean, for the individual
Exactly.
farmers, yes, it is good.
Yeah.
But for the country as a whole, it is trivial.
Yeah, but I mean, should we be appealing to the EU, or we should be setting things right? You know, I've had a couple of conversations when it comes to exporting some of our crops. And from the farm, like you mentioned, the issue of chemicals, the pesticide and all that, isn't that what we should be doing, sort of just appealing to the EU to allow us, you know? If we have a good
That,
product, I believe people
so,
will buy it. We don't need to appeal to them.
so what they are trying to do is they are trying to improve those practices. They are trying to adopt, agricultural best practices globally, so that, because even when they appeal, they have to show that the beans meet the required standard. So to meet the required standard, they need to change some of the practices, like the use of pesticides, the storage facilities, etc. So that is what they are trying to. That's what the Nigerian Exports Promotion Council is trying to do, to re-engineer that whole agricultural or beans export value chain, so that the beans exports will be acceptable or will meet the minimum threshold to be exported to the EU.
All right, so I do hope we do meet that threshold. What else is happening in the commodity space?
So in terms of commodities, if you look at the domestic commodities, most of them are flat. If you look at the price of beans, a 50 kg bag of beans is still flat at 42,000 naira. Cement is flat at 4,000 naira. Tomatoes, a basket of tomatoes is flat at 13,000. Pepper is flat at 13,000. Onion is flat 45,000. Most of them are flat at the moment. However, going forward, if the fuel queues or the fuel scarcity persists, then it may pass through to domestic commodity prices. And this coincides also with the commencement of the planting season. And the planting season is usually associated with scarcity of commodities. So if the fuel scarcity persists and as it coincides with the planting season, I think that domestic commodities prices may inch upward in the near term.
All right, Adesola Sumoni joining us from the UK now. Thank you so much for giving us updates from the commodity space. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you for having me.
And then we learned that in the UK, restrictions are being lifted. So very soon you'll be moving around really free in the UK.
Yes.
All right, enjoy your day, Adesola. So let's take a short break now before we go to the market space. Still stay with us.